they ask you a question like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? A good answer would be, hey sailors, welcome back to Cruising as Crew. My name is Lucy, and today we're going to be talking about how to ace your cruise ship interview. But before we start, please press like and subscribe for more cruise ship content. And if you have any questions or video suggestions, you can leave them in the comments down below or DM me over on Instagram at Cruising as Crew. But as for now, let's get into the video. Firstly, we're going to go through do's and don'ts. Secondly, we're going to go through some questions that you should be asking them. And thirdly, we're going to go through questions that you should prepare to be asked by the interviewer. And I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, it's because you've managed to get an interview for a job on board cruise ships. So firstly, congratulations. But now let's go through what you need to know. So firstly, what you should be doing. Dress appropriately. So you want well-fitted, neutral, smart, ironed clothing. Even if this is a Zoom interview and you're like, well, they're not really going to be able to see me. You never know. So just make sure that you are wearing something clean, ironed, and neutral in colour. Look the part, so make sure your hair has been freshly washed and straightened or curled or whatever you do with it, slicked back. Just make sure it looks great. If you have an interview coming up, guys, maybe go and get a haircut before the interview. Girls, if you're going to wear makeup, make sure it's not too out there. You want it to be simple, just to highlight the features on your face. Maybe a bit of foundation, a bit of mascara, but nothing too over the top. You need to be punctual for your interview. You need to be aware, you need to be punctual for your interview. So you absolutely need to be aware of time zones. If you are in the UK and the person interviewing you is in the US or in Mexico, you need to work out the time difference and do it 3 times. It needs to be accurate. If you keep the interviewer waiting, it's not going to look good. And if you're waiting an hour before your interview, that's not great either for you. So definitely be aware of time zones. Also make sure your laptop is fully charged or whatever device you are going to be doing this interview on. You don't want any distractions. So ideally, have your laptop plugged into the wall so it doesn't run out of charge, and you need to be in a noise-free environment so that you don't get distracted. And also make sure the lighting is good. It's no good really if you're doing an interview on Zoom in a really dark room and the interviewer can't actually see you. So make sure that you're sat in front of a window like I am, or in front of a light. When organising your interview, be flexible with times because it shows your dedication to getting the job, and being flexible and adaptable is a huge part of working on board a cruise ship. So any way that you can show that you are flexible is great. Before you have your interview, be sure to do some interview practice with maybe your friends, a parent. Get them to ask you some interview questions and try and answer them, because it's really hard to strike that balance between being professional but also getting your personality across. So it's definitely helpful to do some preparation before you do the interview to try and find that balance. But during your interview, you want to come across as confident as possible. So try and stay relaxed, take some deep breaths, don't overthink it, stay present to the moment, and make sure you listen to what the interviewer is saying. And smile. Confident people smile. So show your teeth. So most likely the interviewer at some point is going to ask you, why do you want to work on cruise ships? Now, instead of saying, because I love the ocean, because I want to travel the world, it's better to tell them how the experience you've acquired while working on land is going to help improve the company. How are you going to solve a problem for them? You want to convince them that working on cruise ships is a well thought out career path and you know exactly why you want to work on board. Explain that you are committed to progressing in the industry. So if they ask you a question like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? A good answer would be, well, for the first contract, I really want to work on understanding the role and becoming an expert at my job. For my second and third year, I want to take on more responsibility and work my way up through the ranks. And I see this company as the perfect fit in terms of allowing me to develop my expertise and contribute to the company's future, as I'm really passionate about the industry, especially where it's headed. With these questions, you don't necessarily have to give them a straight arrow answer. You know, like politicians do, they never actually answer the question. Well, you need to become a little bit of a politician in terms of you don't give them a definitive answer, but you still give them a good answer, if that makes sense. Make sure you have researched the company and you know quite a lot about them. Whether this is a cruise line, whether it is an agency, Steiner, Harding, or whether you're going with Royal Caribbean or Carnival, make sure you know about that company, because it's really impressive and it shows like, okay, this person really wants to work here because they know so much about the company. They want an employee that really wants to work for them. No one wants to hire someone who's like not really bothered. They're like, okay, well, if you show that you're enthusiastic about the company and you know when they started and how many ships they started with and various other facts, that's going to be really impressive. And sometimes that can actually be a swaying factor. You know, let's say you didn't interview so well because you were really nervous, but you were really enthusiastic about the company. You know, that could sway them to give you the job, because they're aware that people don't necessarily always interview well, but people know what they know. So make sure you know about the company that you are applying for. Going back to what I said before about being present, I cannot stress it enough, because you're only listening, you're only truly listening when you are present. When someone's talking to you but you're thinking about 10 other things, you're not actually listening to what they say. So it's really important, both for nerves and to be able to correctly answer the question, that you are present and you are listening to the interviewer. Now we're going to cover some don'ts. So don't talk over the interviewer. Don't discuss pay within the second or third question. Discussions of salary should come towards the end of the interview. Don't speak poorly about previous colleagues or bosses or companies. So if you have got some sob story about your ex-job or your ex-colleague, your interviewer does not need to know anything about that. Do not use colloquial language like babe and hun. I don't know about you, but if I was interviewing someone and they called me babe, I'd be like, nope. Don't ask where the ship will be going. Firstly, they don't know what ship they're going to put you on, so they won't be able to answer that question. But also, if you ask where will the ship be going, they're just going to be like, oh, they only want to work on ships because they think it's a holiday. So don't ask anything about where you're going to be going in the world. It's a nice surprise. So now we're going to go over questions to ask the interviewer. Now, a lot of times in interviews, people don't feel like they can ask questions, but you have to remember, an interview is a two-way street. They are seeing if you're right for their company, but you are also seeing if this company is a good fit for you. So you have to ask questions, because it shows the company that you've really put some thought into this, and if you do get a job with this company, you are going to want to stay with them long term. So it is really important that you have some questions ready to ask your interviewer at the end of the interview. But this is where you can ask about your salary. As I said, you don't want to bring that up right at the beginning, but when they ask, have you got any questions? Absolutely ask about your salary and the benefits. Ask about medical insurance, what happens to you if you get injured while you are on board, flights, if they are going to pay for your flights. This is also where you ask about medicals, visas, STCWs. Now, 9 times out of 10, they will say, hold off, we need to get you on a ship before we can give you advice on that. But if you want to ask about whether they are going to pay for that or whether you need to pay for that, this is the time to do so. You can also ask, what are the cabin arrangements? Obviously, for some jobs you get your own cabin. For most entry-level jobs you will be sharing a cabin, but still it's good for you to know. So ask about your cabin arrangements. You can ask them to go through a normal working day. How many hours can I expect to work on a sea day, on a port day? You know, asking these questions is vital, because like I said, it shows your commitment to the role. They want you to ask this. They don't want you to get on board and be like, oh my God, what the hell? They want you to be interested enough to ask these questions up front, so they know that you know what you're getting into. Questions that you really shouldn't ask, you don't need to ask. What's the drinking limit? How often do they drug test? And what ports will I be going to? So these are just no questions. I really wouldn't bring them up in an interview if I were you. And then questions that you should prepare to answer. What is your greatest strength and biggest weakness? Now, what you want to try and do here is turn your weakness into a strength. So my greatest strength is my reliability, and my greatest weakness is my attention to detail. You see? So I'm saying my weakness is attention to detail, but that's actually a good thing. So yeah, don't say my greatest weakness is I'm always late. You want to turn your weakness into a positive thing. What are your salary expectations? This can sometimes catch people off guard, so make sure you have an answer for this. They don't always ask this because a lot of the times it is a fixed salary, but you should prepare to answer this. Tell me about a time where you had to use your initiative. What are your long-term goals within the company? Why should we employ you? How do you feel about working long hours? Tell me about a time when you delivered exceptional customer service. When will you be ready to join a ship? Tell me about your personality. How do you feel about sharing a cabin? All of these questions that they are asking you is to try and figure out whether you are the right fit. But interviews are nerve-wracking and these questions can catch you off guard. So there's so many videos on YouTube that talk about interviews and how to prepare. So definitely do a deep dive into those, and obviously you've watched this, but there's so many more tips out there. But just remember that you are right for the job. They would be lucky to have you. I really hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions on this topic or any other, or any video suggestions, please let me know in the comments, or you can DM me over on Instagram at Cruising as Crew. But good luck with your interviews, guys. I really hope you get the job that you want, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.